Guided by a towering stranger, I descended the eerie, familiar staircase before me. Although I had visited the underground stadium which awaited me once before, I remembered our destination clearly, and knew that my visit meant trouble. Given what I saw last time I was down here, I can't say I'm in any hurry to return. Watching fighters break one another, causing irreparable damage, was an experience I don't want to relive, especially if I'm going to be one of them. I was beyond relieved when Marcus told me that I wouldn't have to fight, as long as we kept collecting. I couldn't believe how lucky I was walking straight into a job like that. But now that he's gone and I'm being guided down here, it's safe to say my luck has run out. Once we reached the top of the arena, notably empty and almost pitch black, I was led down a different path. I followed my silent guide through a heavy metal door, in behind a vacant vendor stand off to the side of the arena. I followed the path as best I could, practically hugging the right wall as I made my way down the blind passageway. It proved hard enough to even see my hands as I waved them in front of my face, let alone my destination. All I could rely on was my ability to hear my guide's footsteps. After what felt like the longest few minutes of my life, I finally reached another heavy door akin to the one preceding it. My guide opened the door before I could walk into it, instead blinding me with ample light beyond. Once my eyes gradually adjusted, for the first time I gazed upon a person I was beginning to think I'd never meet, yet recognized immediately. Karasu. Good morning, Mr. Tesla. My apologies for having Kane drag you down here this early in the morning. Surprised by Karasu's appearance and polite manner, I reservedly walked into the room. I had been expecting a fiendish sadist rather than a businessman, so his greeting threw me off momentarily. Nonetheless, I remained skeptical, aware of just what kind of business the man before me ran. If there's one thing running collections has taught me, it's not to take the kindness of others at face value. Furthermore, even if this man looks like an ordinary businessman, only a true sadist can operate underground fights like the one I witnessed. Not at all, sir. I put on a serious expression and spoke calmly, wary of how to act in Karasu's presence. Whatever his true nature, I know better than to be rude to such a powerful man. Tell me, son, do you know why I called you here? I wish I did. I'd initially assumed that I was being forced to fight after all, given the timing and the manner in which I was fetched. But if that were the case, I wouldn't be meeting such a rich and powerful man, and he certainly wouldn't seem so happy or accommodating. Realizing that my first conclusion was likely wrong, I tried to think of the next most likely scenario. Well, I suppose I've been working for Karasu indirectly for a short while now, and the fact that I'm here means he's been paying attention to me. If my misdeeds warranted death or even just punishment, Karasu wouldn't need to bring me here or do any of this in person. So then if I'm not here to be scolded or penalized, does that mean... No, sir. I'd better just be quiet. I don't want to jump to any further conclusions. Oh? Not even a little hint. I figured that Twin Marcus would have said something. Before his tragic demise, of course. Now, don't be like that. This is a joyous occasion. My child, I brought you here today to offer you a job. Wait, what? Seriously? That's right. You see, my business expands much further than gambling and underground fighting. You might even say that I'm in the middle of building my own empire. In order for my dreams to become reality, however, I require individuals with certain skills. As quickly as my excitement had peaked, the uncomfortable sensation in my stomach returned. All great leaders need loyal subjects capable of executing their master's will, and it just so happens that you're the kind of subject I've been looking for. A healthy, serious young man with desirable skills and a logical mind. Someone who can adapt to undesirable situations without batting an eye, and with no qualms about my business. Karasu spoke elegantly, but the undertone of what he was saying gave me reason to pause. By my ability to adapt to undesirable situations, he's no doubt talking about my handling of Marcus's death, how I continue to work without delay. But if that's the case, he's giving me too much credit. I'm not as unshakable or devoted as that particular event might make me out to be. I'm just a guy who's desperate for money and had no idea how to handle what's going on around him. And you want me. I'm not really the kind of person you're making me out to be. Don't be silly. I know exactly what kind of person you are. I've hired and fired literally hundreds of people this past year alone. It's my job to read a person's character. So believe me when I say that if you weren't perfect for what I have planned, you wouldn't be here. If he's had to fire literally hundreds of people this past year alone, isn't that proof that Karasu's a terrible judge of character? Not that I'd be stupid enough to actually say that out loud. If you say so. But what kind of job are we talking about? I'm afraid it's not a job so simple as to be classified. People under my immediate employ rarely have a single job, and the same would be true for you. I cannot tell you more until you accept. Until I accept. Doesn't he mean unless I accept? No, I take that back. Given who I'm speaking to, declining may not be an option at all. At any rate, Karasu isn't exactly being forthcoming with details. This is like my work for Marcus all over again. Paid in advance, then dragged to an underground arena in the middle of the night. If I accept, then you'll die. I'll be making more money than ever before. Not long ago, I was eating instant food and worrying about whether or not I could pay the rent. Even now, my first paycheck will soon dry up, and I'll need another source of income. Working directly for Karasu would be like a dream come true. Until it kills you. Yes, chances are the job will be dangerous. This offer only manifested after I killed 3 people and left behind my deceased partner. With my suddenly bloody and dubious track record, there's no way this job offer can be anything peaceful or legal. Am I really okay with that? While it's true that I've never been a moral person, I can't deny that I've fallen quite far in a shockingly short period of time. Is this my last chance at turning my life around? Or have I already progressed past the point of no return? So that's how it is, huh? I understand your reservation. I know that you're only just getting used to your new life. You've only been working for me for 2 weeks now, after all. It makes sense that you need more time to come to a decision. I mean, this is a life-changing opportunity, and it's not one you can easily walk away from. However, there is one thing you should understand. Karasu moved away from his desk, slowly creeping towards me as he spoke. Have you ever wondered why a town like this, one so horribly discriminate, has such a low crime rate? It's because this is a town where crime itself doesn't exist. Police, judges, politicians, they're all controlled by those with money and power. If they say something is legal, or a person is innocent, then that's how it is. And as one of those wielding such power and wealth, the one who will soon own this town of legal crime is standing right in front of you. So whether you want to succeed, live an enjoyable life, or simply survive, I am the one you must pray to. I expect an answer by the end of the week. Having already lost an hour from my morning, I mindlessly wandered around the city, unsure of what to do with myself. My day had been thrown into disarray the moment Kane showed up on my doorstep, and with his insistence that I not show up to work, my entire schedule had been cleared. All that left me with was Karasu's proposal and the weight associated with such a decision. Working for Karasu directly, who would have thought that getting my partner killed would lead to such an opportunity? Whether or not it's an opportunity I actually want, however, is another matter altogether. Speaking objectively, I'd surely be making good money. I'd have a constant source of revenue, be able to look after Sarah, and maybe even rent a place closer to our old home. On the other hand, any job offer earned through homicide is bound to be dangerous, not to mention illegal. No matter how well it pays, a job that gets me killed isn't worth pursuing. Faced with the dilemma of unplanned free time, I unconsciously made my way towards Andre's gym, ready to put my worries aside for a while as I focused on training my body. Until I arrived, however, my concerns weren't going anywhere. Being a collector may pay well, but it isn't terribly interesting, It's also dangerous as Marcus's death has shown. With that in mind, accepting Karasu's offer might not be a bad idea. If I'm going to risk my life at work every day, I might as well climb the criminal ladder while I do so. And even if I do wind up doing something despicable, I'd rather stoop to a new low than get my guts blown out by some middle-aged whack job. That just leaves me with a new, higher-paying, potentially safer and more interesting job offered to me on a silver platter. This should really be a no-brainer. Ending my train of thought early, I arrived at Andre's gym. I entered the gym through the side door that Marcus and I would usually use, quickly wondering why I bothered. Damn, this place is totally deserted. I can't hear a thing, the lights are off. Aside from the unlocked door, there's no indication that anyone should be here. I guess this explains why we've always gone after work. I thought the gyms typically opened early in the day, but apparently not. Oh well, serves me right for trying to take the initiative. I turned around to leave, sensing a presence behind me the moment I did. Good. What the hell was that? Is someone here after all? Fuck. I tried running to the door, but after a few steps my assailant struck again. Struck from behind, I fell to the floor without so much as a glimpse of my attacker. You're dead. Cold steel pressed against my throat, accompanied by a low, emotionally deprived voice I'd never heard before. In a matter of seconds, I found myself face down, injured, and left with a knife against my throat, outmatched at every turn by my attacker. But as I braced myself for the worst, the steel against my throat disappeared, leaving behind only the fear and anxiety it brought with it. Honestly, I don't see why that man's so fascinated by you. The gym's lights slowly turn on, gradually increasing from a low dim to what I consider adequate lighting. Having regained my dominant sense, I turned around to lay eyes on my attacker, not at all surprised by the sight awaiting me. So you must be Mr. Tesla. Master said to expect you by noon. Behind me was a young man a few years older than me, dressed in nothing but black. My name is Leon. Pleased to meet you. Leon extended his hand towards me as he spoke. Rather than shake Leon's hand, however, I simply glared back at him, none too happy about the initial greeting he offered. 1 second he has a knife against my throat, the next he wants to shake my hand. Forget it, it's a little late to be acting friendly now. Seeing that I had no intention of obliging, Leon eventually retracted his hand. Fine then, if that's how you want to do this, let's jump right in. Leon turned his back to me and started to walk towards the ring. Without saying another word, Leon gestured for me to follow him into the ring, opening the door on the cage and inviting me in. He quickly shuffled through an assortment of weapons and pulled out 2 wooden swords, throwing one over to me and taking the other in hand. Any experience with weapon? Though worried about the intent behind Leon's statement, I calmly thought over his question. I've used things like baseball bats and other sporting equipment, but I doubt that's what he means. The only tool I've used to hurt others is the knife I bought, assuming that counts. No, none. Too bad. Today's gonna be a long day. After less than an hour of training with my new instructor, I could barely move a muscle. I found it impossible to even defend myself against the onslaught, let alone fight back. I thought that I'd have at least stood a change in... I thought that I would have at least stood a chance in hand-to-hand combat. But as Leon insisted on the 2 of us using weapons, I suffered an insurmountable disadvantage. What a joke. What kind of training was that supposed to be? All I learned was how truly powerless I am in real combat. After rendering me physically unable to fight, Leon's lesson turned into one of theory. He showcased a variety of weapons, explained how to use them, defend against them, which to use in what situation. All good advice that fell on deaf ears. Barely conscious, there was no way I could absorb such a wealth of information. I couldn't even stand, let alone think. Leon soon picked up on this, offering me a short break before bringing out his bag full of weapons once again. We repeated the cycle a handful of times, and every time the length of our sparring was reduced exponentially. Finally, after I threw for the 6th time, Leon gave up, leaving me alone in the dark, empty gym. What am I supposed to do now? If I try to stand up again, I'm just going to pass out from the pain, and with a number of bruises decorating my torso, laying down isn't an option either. I guess there's really only one thing I can do. Sarah might be worried, but right now it can't be helped. I'll just have to make it up to her once I finally wake up. Leon, my, you're back early. Is the assessment over already? Yes, sir. I see, I see. How did our new friend go? Did he meet your expectations? Sir, the boy has no aptitude for armed combat whatsoever. He doesn't even appear to have basic training in martial arts, let alone enough to survive. I recommend leaving him as a collector and keep your recommendations to yourself. Explain to me in detail what the two of you went through. The boy showed up earlier than anticipated and tried to leave soon after entering. I ambushed him in the dark as he turned to leave. He turned around at the last minute but was unable to defend himself. That's disappointing. It wasn't until I turned the lights on and engaged him in unarmed combat that he was able to adequately protect himself. Whenever we return to armed combat, however... That's enough. You can go now. You're the one who asked for a detailed explanation. By the end of our first 30 minutes together, he could barely stand. The boy is hopeless in armed combat. A little harder and I would have... Enough. What part of "you can go now" did you not understand? Or are you so insecure that you need to talk badly about your colleagues? How pitiful. Colleagues? How could you compare me to that brat? The moment Karasu nodded, a figure appeared behind Leon, reminding him of his position. You said yourself that he preempted your first strike. Moreover, you mentioned that he was successful in defending against your unarmed assault. Is that not what you just told me? It is, but he was just what? Just lucky? Is a little luck all it takes to preempt a trained killer? It doesn't matter. If he were a real target, I would have killed him with ease. Why does it matter if he did well in unarmed combat? If it hadn't been trained, he would have died before ever getting the opportunity. You really don't understand, do you? See, this boy. This 17-year-old boy. A teenager with no history of martial arts or combat sports was able to ward off the assault of a trained killer. A boy who until only weeks ago presumably had no knowledge of the underworld. In a matter of weeks, he has developed the instincts of a killer, proving himself competent enough to take the place of Andre, a 12-year veteran in this business. What he possesses is adaptability, and that is something you simply cannot learn. Do you want me to keep an eye on him? Straight to business, huh? Leave him be, for now. But if he's stupid enough to make the next move, see to it that it is his last. Whoa, brief chapter.